Hello viewers and my dear students. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Dr. Zahida Begum, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, Government Degree College, Hayatnagar. Today's topic is a part of international organizations, that is regional organizations, European Union and SAARC. We have been discussing for the last few days about what is international organization, type of international organizations. We also discussed about examples of international organizations, and also we learned United Nations and examples of closely related international organizations. Today is a topic which we learn so many new things. It is little bit quite abstract. You need to pay attention, and also you have observed very carefully. There are some slides, each and every slide will be explained. So please have a careful look at the slides and also the explanation. Listen carefully to the explanation that I am going to give, because this topic is related not only international relations or political science, but also very useful to competitive exams. So let us start with introduction. So what is European Union and its basis? And why European Union is important. So first of all, what is European Union? The European Union is a unique economic and political partnership between 27 European countries. It has delivered half a century of peace, stability and prosperity, helped raise living standards, launched a single European currency, and is progressively building a single Europe wide market in which people, goods, services, and capital move among member states as freely as within one country. So, what is the basis? The European Union is based on the rule of law and democracy. It is neither a new state replacing existing ones, nor is it comparable to other international organizations. Its member states delegate sovereignty to common institutions representing the interests of the Union as a whole on questions of joint interest. All decisions and procedures are derived from the basic treaties ratified by the member states only. So, why the European Union? What is the important? The European Union's mission in the 21st century is to maintain and build on the peace established between its member states, bring European countries together in practical cooperation, ensure that European citizens can live in security, promote economic and social solidarity, preserve European identity and diversity in a global world, promulgate the values that European share. So, 500 million people and 27 countries. The European Union is a political and economic community of 27 member states located primarily in Europe. It was established in 1993 by the Treaty of Maastricht, adding new areas of policy to the existing European community. With almost 500 million citizens, the European Union combined generates an estimated 30% share of the world's nominal gross domestic product, that is 16.6 trillion US dollars in 2007. So, the origin or introduction of the European Union, or the history of the European Union. Making war unthinkable among Europeans, together managing main materials used in war, coal and steel. May 1950, Schuman calls for a European coal and steel community. 6 founding states decide to share and co-manage coal and steel. So, founders' new ideas for lasting peace and prosperity: Konrad Adenauer, Robert Schuman, Winston Churchill, Alcide de Gasperi, Jean Monnet. So, what is the top 10 historical steps in 1951? Means the European coal and steel community is set by the six founding members. In 1957, the same six countries signed the Treaties of Rome, setting up the European Economic Community (EEC) and the European Atomic Energy Community Euratom. In 1973, the communities expand to 9 member states and introduce more common policies in 1979. The first direct elections to the European Parliament in 1981, the first Mediterranean enlargement in 1992. And also in 1992, the Maastricht Treaty was ratified, which recharted the European Council as the European Union. So, the Treaty of Maastricht establishes the European Union in till 2002 also. The euro comes into circulation in 2007. The European Union has 27 member states till now. 2009, the Lisbon Treaty comes into force, changing the way of European Union works. So, what is the treaties behind this European Union? Basis for democratic cooperation built on law in 1952, the European Steel and Coal Community 1958, the Treaties of Rome, the European Economic Community and the European Atomic Energy Community in 1987, the European Single Act, the Single Market 1993, Treaty of European Union and Maastricht 1999 Treaty of Amsterdam, 2003 Treaty of Nice, 2009 Treaty of Lisbon are founding treaties of European Union. So, the 1999 Euro launched. The euro is a single currency for Europeans, can be used everywhere in the Euro countries. Coins one side with national symbols, one side common. Notes no national side. So, what is the European Union symbols? The European flag, the 12 stars in a circle symbolize the ideals of unity, solidarity, and harmony among the peoples of Europe. And the European anthem, the melody used to symbolize the European Union comes from the Ninth Symphony composed in 1823 by Ludwig van Beethoven. Europe Day. The ideas behind the European Union were first put forward on 9th May 1950 by French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman. This is why 9th May is celebrated as a key date for the European Union. The European Union motto, United in Diversity. So, the membership countries from in European Union is 6 to now 27 countries. So, what is the membership conditions? One, legal requirement and the Copenhagen criteria. In 1993, following request from the former communist countries to join the Union, the European Council laid down 3 criteria they should fulfill so as to become members. By the time they join, new members must have one, stable institutions guaranteeing democracy, the rule of law, human rights, and respect for the protection of minorities. And number 2, a functioning market economy and the capacity to cope with competitive pressure and market forces within the union. And number 3, the ability to take on the obligations of membership, including support for the aims of the union. They must have a public administration capable of applying and managing European Union laws in practice. Neighborhood policy enlargements in 2004 and 2007 pushed the European Union's borders further east and south, raising the questions of how the European Union should handle relations with the new neighbors. Stability and security are an issue in the regions beyond its borders, and the European Union wished to avoid the emergence of new dividing lines between itself and these neighboring regions. For example, action was needed to tackle emerging threats to security, such as illegal immigration, the disruption of energy supplies, environmental degradation, organized cross border crime, and terrorism. So the European Union developed a new European neighborhood policy, nothing but ENP, governing relations with its neighbors to east. East means Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. And the south. South means Algeria, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Belarus, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, the occupied Palestinian territory, Syria, and Tunisia. So, almost all these countries have bilateral partnership and cooperation agreements or association agreements with European Union, under which they are committed to common values such as democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, and to making progress towards a market economy, sustainable development, and reducing poverty. The European Union, for its part, offers financial, technical, and macroeconomic assistance, easier access to visas, and a range of measures to help these countries develop. Since 1995, the southern Mediterranean countries have been linked to the European Union through political, economic, and diplomatic ties known as the Barcelona process, later renamed the Euro Mediterranean Partnership at a summit meeting in Paris in July 2008. This partnership was relaunched as the Union for the Mediterranean, bringing together the 27 member states of the European Union and 16 partner countries across the southern Mediterranean and the Middle East. The European Union's financial assistance to both groups of countries is managed by the European Neighbourhood and Partnership Instrument, nothing but ENPI. Its overall budget for the 2007 to 13 is approximately 12 billion euros. So, what is the headquarter of European Union? Brussels, located in Belgium, is the headquarter of European Union, selected as the headquarter of the European Union because of its centralized location in Europe. So the single market based on four freedoms: one, goods, services, people, capital. The single market has led to 2011 European Union budget, for example, 141.9 billion euros. It means 1.13% gross national of income citizens, freedom, security, and justice 1%, other. Administration 6%, sustainable growth, jobs, competitiveness, regional development 46%, and the European Union as a global player, including development aid 6%, natural resources, agriculture, environment is 41%. How does the European Union spend the money or spend its money? Solidarity in practice. The European Union Cohesion Policy 2007 to 2013, 347 billion euros invested for infrastructure, business, environment, and training of workers for less well off regions or citizens. Regional fund, social fund, cohesion fund, convergence objective, and regions with GDP per capita under 75% of the European Union average. 81.5% of the funds are spent on this objective, regional competitiveness and employment objective. So 2.8 million new jobs and 40% drop in price of phone calls from 2000 to 2006. Significant reductions in the price of many products and services, including internet access and airfares. So, free to move Schengen area. Schengen area is no police or customs checks at borders between most European Union countries, controls strengthened and European Union external borders. More cooperation between police and different European Union countries. You can buy and bring back any goods for personal use when you travel between European Union countries. The European Union is a major trading power. Share of world trade in goods 2007 in or share of world trade in services 2007, others 53.2%, European Union 17%, US 14.5%, Japan 5.8%, China 9.5%, others or 40.6%, European Union. So in goods it's 53.2% and in services it's 28.5% or 28.5% to 40.6%. So global trade player, it's nothing but global trade player. So the European Union is the biggest provider of development aid in the world. Official development assistance per citizen 2007 93 euros, 44 euros or 53 euros in Japan or US or per citizens as assistance. The European Union provides 60% of all developmental aid. So, what is the decision making part? The decision making in the Europe Union are three key players: one, Council of the European Union, European Commission, and also European Parliament. The three key players are main role to decision making in the European Union. Among these three players, another four organizations also include to decision making part in European Union. So the European Union institutions is European Commission, European Parliament, Council of the European Union, European Council, Court of Justice, Court of Auditors, European Central Bank. So this is the structure of the institutions. So I will explain clearly. So how decisions are made? First of all, we are going to European Union key players. How decisions are made? Citizens, interest groups, experts, and then second stage discuss, consult commissions, and third stage make formal proposal Parliament and Council of Ministers, and next stage decide jointly Commission and Court of Justice, and last stage monitor implementation national or local authorities and implement. So this is the how decisions are made in European Union. So first of all, the European Parliament, it is called as voice of the people, decides European Union laws and budget together with Council of Ministers, democratic supervision of all the European Union's work, number of members elected in each country. The current president of European Parliament since 3rd July 2019 is David Sassoli. The European political parties means Green parties or European Free Alliance or European Conservatives and Reformists. These are all parties of European political parties, and also Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe, European People's Party, it's called nothing but Christian Democrats, 265 non-attached members, and 27 total 736 progressive alliances of socialists and democrats, etc. Europe of freedom and democracy works on number of seats in the European Parliament per political group. So next one is the important Council of Ministers. It is called nothing but voice of the member states. One minister from each European country. Presidency rotates every 6 months. It decides European Union laws and budget together with Parliament, manages the common foreign and security policies, summit at the European Council, summit of heads of state and governments of all European Union countries, held at least 4 times a year, and sets the overall guidelines for European Union policies. A High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security chairs the Foreign Affairs Council meeting, and also Vice President of the European Commission manages the common foreign and security policy. Head of the European External Action Service, the President of the European Council since 1st December 2019, Charles Michel. And third one, the most important key role of the European Union is the European Commission. It nothing but called as promoting the common interest in 27 independent members, one from each European Union country, progress new legislation, executive organ, guardian of the treaties, represents the European Union on the international stage. 27 independent judges, one from each European Union country, rules on how to interpret European Union law, ensures European Union countries apply European Union laws in the same way the Court of Justice upholding the law. And the President of the European Commission is since 1st December 2019 Ursula von der Leyen. So the next one, the European Court of, this is the framework. Have a look. European Council, Council of the European Union, European Parliament, and we also completed European Commission. Next, the Court of Justice, which holds the judicial power and watches that the European Union legislation is understood in the same way across the European Union. Its headquarters is located in Luxembourg. The Court of Auditors, next one, this is supervises the European budget to make sure that it has been properly spent by the European institutions. It's located in Luxembourg. So another one, the European Central Bank. So the European Central Bank administers monetary policy within the Eurozone, which comprise 19 member states of the European Union and is one of the largest monetary areas in the world. Established by the Treaty of Amsterdam, the European Central Bank is one of the world's most important central banks and serves as one of 7 institutions of the European Union. Being enshrined in the Treaty on European Union, the bank's capital stock is owned by all 27 central banks of each European Union member state. So the current president of the European Central Bank is Christine Lagarde. Headquartered in Frankfurt, Germany, the bank formerly occupied the Euro Tower prior to the construction of its new seat. It manages the euro, ensures price stability, controls money supply, and decides interest rates. Works independently from governments. And next important, the European Economic and Social Committee. It is called also Voice of Civil Society. In this committee, 344 members represents trade unions and employers, farmers, consumers, etc. This committee advises on new European Union laws and policies, promotes the involvement of civil society in European Union matters. The Committee of the Regions, next one, this is also called as Voice of Local Government. It contains 344 members, represents cities, regions, and it advises on new European Union laws and policies, promotes the involvement of local governments in European Union matters. So the European Union Central Bank is the central bank for the euro. So 1999 to 2002, the euro and the previous national currencies were concurrently used in participating states. European Union member states not yet using the euro as currency. Denmark, Greece, Sweden, UK. But 2002, the participating countries had their provisions national currencies withdrawn permanently as a legal tender. So what is the current issues? That is enlargement. The main issue is enlargement. 10 countries joined the European Union in 2004, making 27 countries total. The euro, the common currency for the European Union countries, and the multilingualism, 20 official languages in for 27 countries, and openness, access, and transparency, how to get the documents to the people, and safety and security for of Europe against terrorism. These all are current issues. So we'll go to conclusion. So what is the conclusion? European Union identifies three priority areas for action. The one, support for political and administrative reform, including modernization of administration, decentralization, rule of law, and respect for fundamental human rights. 2. Support for economic reform, including implementation of the 5-year plan, preparation for the currently initiated and association agreement, and preparation for accession to the World Trade Organization. And number 3, support for social reform, including human resources development and measures to accompany the economic transition process. The European Union has allocated a total of 129 euro million for the period of 2011 to 2013. So the national indicative program, that is nothing but NIP 2011 to 13, outlines priority actions in these fields as well as their budget and sequencing. The NIP is the product of intensive consultation process with Syrian authorities, member states, others, donors, and non-state actors, as well as the lessons learned from past cooperation. So this is all about European Union. And now we are coming to SAARC. SAARC, this is another most important international organization or regional organization. We have to see how far both even SAARC or European Union is very important to the international organization. Let us start with introduction. So the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation is the regional intergovernmental organization and geopolitical union of states in South Asia. Covering a population of more than 2 billion, SAARC is the largest regional organization in the world. So, I am adding some more information to introduction. SAARC is a manifestation of the determination of the peoples of South Asia to work together towards finding solutions to their common problems in a spirit of friendship, trust, and understanding, and to create an order based on mutual respect, equity, and shared benefits. So, what is the historical part or evolution of SAARC? The concept of regional cooperation in South Asia was first mooted in November 1980. After consultations, the foreign secretaries of 7 countries met for the first time in Colombo in April 1981. This was followed a few months later by the meeting of the Committee of the Whole, with identified 5 broad areas for regional cooperation under the Integrated Program of Action, that is called nothing but IPA. The foreign minister at their first meeting in New Delhi in August 1983 adopted the Declaration on South Asian Regional Cooperation, SAARC, and formally launched the IPA. The first concrete proposal for establishing a framework for regional cooperation in South Asia was made by the late President of Bangladesh, Ziaur Rahman, on May 2, 1980. Finally, the foreign ministers of all the countries had a meeting in New Delhi in 1983 where they adopted a declaration on South Asian regional cooperation. At the first summit held in Dhaka on 7 to 8 December 1985, the Charter of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation (SAARC) was signed by the heads of the state or government, and we will discuss the objectives and principles and general provisions as mentioned in this SAARC charter are as follows. Before objectives, we'll discuss the reasons for the formation of SAARC. One, central location of Asia. It's located in central. Number two, predominance of agriculture. This region is poor and overpopulated. All countries from part of the third world, all countries gained independence after the Second World War, and common features of the Indian subcontinent: dependency of economy on southwest monsoon. So the objectives, there are two types of objectives: primary objectives and secondary objectives. So what is the primary objectives? Improve quality of life and welfare of people. Second one, economic, social and cultural development. And third one, contribute mutual trust and understanding. And fourth one, strengthen cooperation among themselves and other developing countries. And last one, cooperation on issues like water resources. And secondary objectives are: SAARC also looks in critical areas like poverty, education and culture, and also looks sports and arts also. So what is the principles? The main principles are respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, political equality and independence of all the member states, and no interference in the internal matters. All decisions should be taken unanimously. Cooperation for mutual benefit. All bilateral issues to be set aside and all the multilateral issues to be discussed. And two more general provisions also there. So number one, decisions at all levels in SAARC are taken on the basis of unanimity. And number two, bilateral and continuous issues are excluded from its deliberations. And next we will go to membership. I already discussed this, and once again we have a look. The South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation (SAARC) comprising the 7 countries of South Asia, that is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, the Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan and Sri Lanka, and one more member recently added, that is Afghanistan. It was joined in 2007. So now SAARC is an eco-political organization of 8 South Asian nations, which was established on 8th December 1985 for friendship and cooperation among themselves and with other developing countries. So observer members also there. The observers are Australia, China, European Union, Japan, Iran, Mauritius, Myanmar, South Korea and USA. And potential future members also are there. South Africa has participated in meetings. Russia has expressed interest in becoming as an observer of SAARC. Others, Myanmar has expressed interest in upgrading its status from an observer to a full member of SAARC. So So what is the organizational structure of SARC? This organizational structure is a council of ministers, a standing committee, programming committee, technical committee, and secretariat. So SARC consists of, at the top there is the council represented by the heads of the government of the member countries. The council is the apex policy making body. It meets once in a 2 years time. And number 2, council of ministers. It is to assist the council. It is represented by the foreign ministers of the member countries. Its functions include formulation of policies, review of functioning, deciding new areas of cooperation, and chalk out additional mechanism, and also decide about general issues of common interest of the SARC members. So another one, standing committee. It is comprised by the foreign secretariat of the member government. Its major functions are to monitor and coordinate the programs, to determine intersectoral priorities, to mobilize cooperation within and outside the region, to deal with the modalities of financing. So programming committee, next one. It consists of the senior official of the member governments. Its functions include scrutinizing the budget of the secretariat, and number 2, finalizing the annual schedule, and external activities assigned by the standing committee, and analysis the respects of the technical committee. And next one, technical committee. It consists of the represented of the member nations. Its functions are to formulate project and programs, to monitor and execute the programs or projects, to submit reports, cover areas like agriculture, communication, environment and rural development, health and population, science and technology, tourism and transport, etc. So the most important is the secretariat. In this organization structure, the most important is the SARC secretariat. It is established in Kathmandu on 16th January 1987. The SARC secretariat is responsible to coordinate and monitor the implementation of SARC activities, service the meetings of the association, and serve as the channel of communication between SARC and other international organizations. The secretariat, being the headquarters of the organization, has been increasingly utilized the venue for various SARC meetings. So the present Secretary General, Sri Lanka's diplomat Isala Virakon, having assumed charge on 1st March 2020. So what is the agreements, declarations and conventions of SARC? First of all, we are going to agreements. Agreements on avoidance of double taxation, agreement on the establishment of South Asian Regional Standards Organization, that is SARSO, agreement on South Asian Free Trade Area, that is SAFTA, agreement on establishing the SARC Food Bank, and Charter of SDF 31st July 2008, and final agreement on customs matters, and one more final agreement on avoidance of double taxation, and one more agreement for establishment of SARC Arbitration Council. And we are going to declarations. Declaration of Commerce Ministers, May 1998. New Delhi Declaration of Environmental Ministers, April 1997. Rawalpindi Resolution on Children of South Asia, August 1996. And another declaration, Common Position on Climate Change, in November 1998. And another declaration, Colombo Declaration on a Common Environment Program, and Islamabad Declaration on Health 2005, and Declaration on Cooperation in Combating Terrorism, and also Colombo Statement on Children of South Asia, and Ministerial Declaration on Global Economic Crisis. And the conventions, what about the conventions? Convention on Promotion of Welfare of Children. The purpose of this convention is to promote cooperation amongst member states so that they take effective steps for the welfare of the children. And another convention, SAARC Convention on Combating and Prevention of Trafficking in Women and Children for Prostitution. The purpose of this convention is to effectively deal with the various aspects of prevention and suppression of trafficking in women and children, and to prevent the use of women and children in prostitute networks. And another convention, SAARC Convention on Narcotics Drugs. Important steps have been taken to enforce the provisions of the Regional Convention on Narcotic Drugs. And another important convention, Convention on Mutual Assistance on Criminal Matters and Suppression of Terrorism. The state parties shall provide widest possible measures of mutual legal assistance in criminal matters, namely investigations, prosecutions, and resulting proceedings. So next we will go to list of SAARC summits. Till now there are 18 SAARC summits were there. 17 SAARC summit Addu City in 2011. The 18th, the 17th is for famous for the first time in its history. The declaration specifically mentions terrorism. So the 18th SAARC summit held in Kathmandu, Nepal in November 2014. And also ministerial meetings also is there, meetings held between the ministers of member states of various portfolios. More than 30 such meetings have been held in SAARC history. So what is the IPA? We already discussed about IPA, Integrated Program of Action. The Declaration on South Asian Regional Cooperation was adopted by the foreign ministers in 1983 in New Delhi. During the meeting, the ministers also launched the Integrated Program of Action in 9 agreed areas, namely agriculture, rural development, telecommunication, meteorology, health and population activities, transport, portal service, science and technology, sports, arts and culture. It is reflected as areas of cooperation. So in SAARC countries, the areas of cooperation is agriculture and biotechnology, trade and finance, science and technology, energy and environment, information, communication and media, tourism and social development, culture and education, people to people contacts. SAARC designed the SAARC areas, designated SAARC areas. 2007 is Green South Asia year. Until 1989 to 2007, SAARC designated as SAARC areas in every year. And this is also SAARC decades. 1991 to 2000 SAARC decade of girl child, 2000 to 2010 SAARC decade of the rights of the child, 2006 to 2015 SAARC decade of poverty alleviation, 2010 to 2020 SAARC decade of intra-regional connectivity. So I already told that SAARC summits, there are 18 summits completed. Though the Article 3 of SAARC Charter says that the heads of the state or government would meet once in a year, but in these 23 years of SAARC's genesis, only 15 summits has been held till now. The reason was the postponement of summits. These postponement of summits were due to the regional tensions, as the SAARC summit in 1989 was postponed due to the abortive terrorist coup in the Maldives and the presence of IPKF, nothing but Indian Peacekeeping Force in Sri Lanka. The summits of 1992, 1994, 1996 were also postponed. The Kargil incursion in 1999, The military coup in Pakistan by General Pervez Musharraf led to the postponement of SAARC summit in 2000. The failure of Agra summit between India and Pakistan on 14th July 2001 and terror attack on the Indian Parliament on 13 December 2001 further postponed the summit. There was no summit in year 2006 as it has been postponed twice, once in view of tsunami December 2004 and again in the context of India's reluctance in participate in the meetings due to the political developments in the region. So that's why only 18 summits are there. All these we can say India tries to dominate the functions and controls of activities of SAARC. So the success of SAARC. SAARC preferential was signed on 7th December 1995. The SAFTA South Asian Free Trade Area was signed in Islamabad in January 2004, that is a trading arrangement. And SAARC Chamber of Commerce and Industries SCCI also launched, and SAARC constitutes South Asian Development Funds SADF, and also literacy and education was successfully completed, and poverty elevation also the success of SAARC. And the failure of SAARC, large variety regional and cultural differences is the main failure of SAARC, and also large variety of different political system, and also they lack financial resources and advanced technologies, and involvement of external actors also is the failure of SAARC. And what is the role of India or India and SAARC relations? India occupies 70% of the SAARC nation, both economically and geographical. That's why it's called as Big Brother in SAARC countries. The biggest and industrialized partner of SAARC. It enormous economic opportunities to foster its economic growth among SAARC countries. SAPTA plays a crucial role in trade liberalization, and total value of India's trade with all the SAARC countries is just 1/3 of the total trade just with China. Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently said that all 8 members of SAARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, led by India, can draw up a common plan to eliminate poverty from the region and make South Asia a global power, and must come to the forefront and initiate measures to encourage nations to prove their mettle and make the SAARC summit a meaningful affair. If Indo-Pak relations improves, many SAARC nations could benefit from it by improved trade relations and creation of better export markets. India offers a great source of potential investment in terms of trade and commerce, as it is the sole SAARC member to be sharing borders with all 6 members via land or sea. The combined economy of SAARC is the third largest in the world in the terms of GDP. And SAARC has also a political issue. The dispute over Kashmir's accession has been standing in the way of the lasting peace and prosperity of the subcontinent as well as SAARC. In the conclusion part, the SAARC balance sheet of success is very limited to adoption of several conventions. There have also been breakthroughs in the form of agreements forming SAPTA and SAFTA, but their success at operational is still expected. Special economic zones and export promotion zones should be created in all members countries to make trading easier and smooth the relations between the South Asian nations. And India is the largest among the SAARC countries. Differences with neighbors, sharing of water, boats of terrorism, maintaining peace is a challenge. Bilateral negotiations. Indian leaders have visited Asian countries, opened up avenue for economic activities. India has helped Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia in reconstruction and economic development. Live and let live. Cooperation, common goals, understanding, friendship, goodwill is the SARC. So, also I am adding something about in conclusion. A complete SARC organization structure evolved in less than a decade, and increasing areas of cooperation are being added to the list of the SARC activities at every summit and other meetings. Organizational structure of SARC is so designed that it appeals to cooperation at large scale. This cooperation can be among the members of SARC at regional level or among the SARC and other international organizations at international level. SARC's institutional arrangement covered almost all the fields of cooperation, for example, social, economic, cultural, etc. So, regional integration has the potential to promote economic development, and also this potential can be exploited only through deeper cooperation, and there are a number of challenges which restrict this region to tap its potential. Concept of SARC for regional cooperation will only be materialized when political autonomy and mutual trust will prevail. Several factors combine to make a negative case for a viable free trade agreements in the short term. Reasonable case exists for the creation and gradual strengthening of SAFTA as three or few benefits and dwelling on historical ill will. Economies grow and economic complementaries begin to develop. The countries of South Asia may find that SAFTA can offer a potential significant contribution to their progress. Let us hope. And this is all about European Union and SARC. So, thank you. We will discuss another session in another other international international organizations or regional organizations like BRICS, ASEAN, WTO, and etc. other class in other class. Okay, thank you.